Hey guys, hope you're all right. We're live today talking about how to maximize your season, and at a beautiful, beautiful guest house called Fair Acres Place. I'd love to show you some pictures. Maybe a little later we'll get a chance to look around the rooms. But hey, it's great to see you all. So let me know who you are, where you're coming in from, where you're watching in from. Just send me a text or comment. But it's really, really exciting for me to just be here today and to have a chat, kind of talk about some of the things that have been on my heart. You've kind of seen a bit about the book that's been going out. We've been talking a little about your seasons. And I don't know what season you're in, what decade of life you're in. So maybe as we go on, as we have this conversation, you'll be telling me a little bit about what decade you are. Are you in your 20s? Are you in your 30s? Are you in your teens? Are you in your 40s? Are you in your 50s? Are you in your 60s? The interesting thing is every single decade of your life, there's actually a task that you're supposed to be carrying out. And we'll be talking a bit about that. We'll be making some discoveries today, and I hope this will be a really, really enlightening time. So grab your dinner, grab a bite, grab a drink, whatever it is. I've got my chai over here, some nice cocoa. Had my supper already because I eat pretty early. It's a habit I developed a long time ago when I was young. My family actually has dinner at 6. Can you believe it? I mean, somebody told me we were like chickens. We eat, and by the time it gets dark, we're ready for bed. Huh? So I've already had my dinner, and right now I'm just having my little nightcap, my cocoa over here. And so grab whatever it is, make yourself comfortable so we can have this conversation. And like I said, just whatever questions you have, whatever comments you have, send them in. Let me know where you're watching from as well. I would love to just see that as well. So yeah, we're going to be talking about your season. Also, tell me what decade you're in. Are you in your 20s? So just tell me whether if you're in your 20s as well. If you're in your 30s, if you're in your 40s, it would be great to see what decade that we're going to be watching from, and just connect, because I also want to know which one to spend the most time on. Just which season to spend the most time on. Typically, when I've done these talks, because I've done them in different corporates, I find that a lot of people tend to be in their 30s. So I typically tend to spend a lot of time on the 30s. Dorcas, I can see you watching from Uganda. Jimbo, Kamau, 40s, welcome. It's great to have you around. Keep letting me know where you're from and what you're thinking. Nyokabi is in her 30s. Fantastic. So we're going to spend some time talking about your season as well. So let me know what season you're in and what you'd like us to talk about. Boniface, I see you. Thank you so much. On the third decade, you're on third floor. My goodness, that's awesome. Ken, I can see you as well. Ken, you're so young. You're in your 20s. I always thought you're a little older than that. So just keep letting me know what decade you're in. So right now I can see I've got people who are in their 20s. I can see people who are in their 30s. I can see somebody from the 40s. I can see Anthony Muramba from South B in your 40s. Dorcas Magoba, you're in your 30s. That's awesome. So I can see there's a theme there. It's like 20 to 40 seems to be where we are going to spend some time on today then. Anybody else, just keep letting us know where you're watching from. And the interesting thing is, in every one of these segments, in every one of these life stages, there's actually a key task. And the funny thing is, often it's surprising for people when they discover what their key task should be. Elsie, I can see you, almost 40. Awesome. Congratulations. And Freddie Ogola in the 30s. Elsie, you're going to be hitting a big O. You know, we call them the big 4-0 or 3-0. Those tend to be pretty important ones. So this is going to be a good talk for you as well. Grace, I can see you, Grace Dege. Great to have you on, watching from Karen. So whatever decade you're in, just let me know and we'll keep talking about it. Shiro, fourth floor, representing the fourth floor. Shiro Madoi, it's awesome to have you here. And we're hopefully going to spend a bit of time. And I think fourth floor, they say life begins at 40, and it's not a lie, by the way, and you're going to be understanding that. Akinyi in the 30s as well. Great season of life to be in as well. By the way, it's very interesting. I did a post this week on quarter life crisis. I don't know how many of you read that on my FB page. It was amazing the kind of feedback I got from people on that. It just seems to be a real issue for people in our city today. Freddie, watching from Kinshasa, you're the farthest so far. I can see Phil from Burundi. My goodness, we've got an international audience tonight. This is going to be a really fun conversation. I can see Elsie. Yes to 40. That's true. Getting to your 40. That's going to be such a fun decade. Let me tell you, if you live it well, if you live life intentionally, every decade actually gets better. That's the truth. I would never rewind. I'd never go back to any decade that I left because everyone just keeps getting better. And the key thing is intentionality. I think when there's intentionality, you'll be amazed just to see how you're able to find every decade becomes a platform and a stairway to the next one. I can see Rose Chow saying late 30s. Tackle family trees as well in days to come. That's something, by the way, that's a favorite topic of mine, talking about family trees, family of origin. And so absolutely, I'd be happy to talk about that in a different podcast. So we're going to be talking a bit today about your season and what season of life you're in. I don't know whether you're enjoying your season right now. I don't know whether you're enjoying your 20s or you're enjoying your 30s, you're enjoying your 40s. I can see I don't have any 50s watching today. But are you enjoying your season right now? Is it a season that you're really thriving in? Is it a season that is difficult? Are you just in a really, really challenging season? And we're going to be talking about that as well. Because part of what I find is, as you tackle the foundations, if you dealt with the foundations well of the season that you are in, the past season you're in, then you will find that your next season is a little easier. And sometimes what you're going to find is it's if you didn't quite deal with that season, then you might have to go back and do some of the foundation work again. And it's okay. I think that's what we'll be talking about today. I can see Michelle. Michelle Obizi, you're here. Great to have you. Karibu sana. So yeah, keep talking. Keep letting me know who's here. So we're going to be talking. I'm going to start us off. I want to just jump in and and for us, just continue as we go. First thing I'm going to just do is ask you a question as we start. And it's a very simple question, just to engage your imagination as we begin. If you were to, if today you were to win $650,000, 65 million Kenya shillings. I put the dollars there because I know we're watching from different countries. If you're to win that money, if all of a sudden you had that money right now, because some of you have said it's a difficult season. I can see Dorcas is saying it's a difficult season. I can see Mareshe saying enjoying the 30s, started rough, now getting a bit better. I suspect if you had 65 million Kenya shillings, you probably would feel it would get a lot better right now. What would be the first thing that you would do if you had that kind of money? Right now, you found out that you won that kind of money. What's the first thing that you would do if you won 65,000 dollars, 65 million Kenya shillings, $650,000? You know, it's interesting because I did a little survey on people, and I found these 4 categories generally. I mean, they vary a little bit, but I found these 4 categories. And the first is Pimp My Life Polly. So who's Pimp My Life Polly? Pimp My Life Polly is that person, it could be a guy or a girl, who says, you know what, my life has been harsh. I'm a style person stuck in a budget that can't afford style. And now that I've got the cash, the first thing I'm going to do is style up. And so style up my wardrobe, style up my car, style up my address, style up whatever. I need to look good. So if you're, I don't know if you're a Pimp My Life Polly, if you're the person who would say, I mean, the first thing I do before I do anything else, immediately I pimp my life. I've seen Maresha saying number 2, because number 2, if you noticed, is I quit. Number 2 is Prison Break Paul. Prison Break Paul is a guy who says, I've been stuck. You know, I'm stuck in my debt. I'm stuck in my job. I found myself so stuck. And the first thing I'd do if I had $650,000 is I'd pay off all my debts. And then you know what I suspect you do is go to your boss, because you've been working, because you don't like your job, but you've been working to pay off your debts. You go to your boss and you say, you know what, it's been real. I was going to say I've enjoyed working here, but maybe you haven't even, you'd be real with him, because now you can afford to be real. You'd say, I haven't even enjoyed working for your company. It's been real. Take your company and bounce with it, because I've got my life. So that's your Prison Break Paul. So remember, Pimp My Life Polly, Prison Break Paul. I've got a third category of people. If they want that kind of money, this is a sensible Sammy. Sensible Sammy is that guy who, with a huge windfall like that, the first thing he does is call his broker. I mean, it's like, look, dude, I've got this money. Let's buy shares. Let's talk about the stock market. Are you a sensible Sammy? And then number 4 is Mother Teresa Tina. Mother Teresa Tina is that person who gets that kind of money, and the first thing you think about is, my goodness, the poor children of the world. I need to help somebody. I need to build a children's home. I need to build an orphanage for abused women. That's your first response. What will be your response? I mean, just off the top of your mind, would you be Pimp My Life Polly? Would you be Prison Break Paul? Would you be Sensible Sammy? Would you be Mother Teresa Tina? I can see Judy saying, Mother Teresa, then all the cash I ask God for more. I like that, Judy. I can tell Akinyi saying, I'll tell my landlord to sell that house to me right there because I can afford it. With 65 million shillings, I'll even tell him, here's some change for you. What would be your first response? You know, it's important for you to just be able to put that in mind as you're thinking. I found that a lot of my own response is, my goodness. I mean, I'll be honest. When I thought about this for myself, there's a couple of lifestyle things I would probably want to do. There's a couple of things I'd want to do with being sensible. There's some Mother Teresa stuff in me as well. But I can see Dorcas saying, she's a number 4. I can see Anthony saying, me, I'm Prison Break. I'm out of here. I quit. What would be your response? I mean, it's great to see your response. Phil is saying, I'm in my 20s. I'm in the second category. I quit. Prison Break Paul. Everyone's in a different space, you know? Now, here's the thing I want to talk about. And I think you're going to find this really interesting as I talk about that. Here's the thing I want to talk about. And the true danger of those categories, even of that question. They say that people who got a big windfall of cash, and you know, millionaire lotteries, they are bound, even in this country. There are many, many people who won a lot of money through lottos or through all kinds of ways. They say that when money comes to you very suddenly like that, for most people, it destroys their life. What do I mean? I mean, many people end up finding themselves a few years later alcoholics. They find themselves completely disillusioned. They find themselves divorced. They find themselves victims of violence. I mean, and you know, I know you're probably thinking I would be different. You know, you're probably like, I know I hear those stories, but for me it would be different. But are you so sure about that? You know, it's interesting. I mean, I was reading this story about a lady called Miriam who won $650,000. Yes, 65 million shillings. She won this cash in a lottery. It was actually in our newspapers. She actually won this huge windfall she actually got it in the form of a car worth that much. And here's what happened to this girl. She was called Miriam. First thing that happened is she had thousands of Facebook friends. Like that. It's like her friend status just went up. Number 2, she was living with her boyfriend. They'd lived together peacefully for a while. But then her mom showed up the next day. And it's like, my daughter is living with this guy, is taking my underage daughter into his house. What kind of thug is he? And the mom was fighting to have her back. Miriam's like, you've never even thought about me. You've just thought about me because I have the money. The next thing that we heard, Miriam had been kidnapped. By the way, I was watching this story very keenly because I like to track those stories just to see what happens to people. How do they end up when they win that kind of money? And Miriam was kidnapped. She went missing. The police were looking for her. The next story I read about Miriam, she had been discovered. Her relatives had actually kidnapped her from her boyfriend's house. And they had hidden her somewhere deep in Shags. And poor Miriam managed to finally escape, ran home to her lover, was reunited to him. The next story I read is that Miriam's family were now reconciling. They were so sorry that they had hurt her feelings. They had overreacted and they wanted to make peace with her. Okay, that was the next story. The next story, I was tracking these stories in the papers. The next story, Miriam was with her boyfriend in court. They were going through some messy, she had sued him, and there was this messy law court going on. Then she left him. The next story I read is Miriam went abroad. She was basically pursuing her studies. She had decided enough with these people. And then the last story I read, which was a couple of years later, was that Miriam was broke. All the money was finished. She regretted ever winning it. Her relationships were a mess. She wasn't talking to her family. She had lost her relationship and she was worse off than before. You know, that story, Miriam's story, which is a story of so many people, not just in our country, but all over the world, it tells me something. It tells me that true success is not something that can be given to you. If you don't have the foundation for true success, when success comes in your life, the thing you're working for, it'll actually destroy you. It'll destroy you. The prayer you're praying right now, if God was to give it to you, it could actually destroy you if you didn't have a foundation for it. And that's why for me, seasons is such a critical thing. It's talking about what season are you in your life right now. Um, if you understand your season, you're able to build the foundation so that the success you're praying for, when it comes, it finds something to hold it up. Because when success comes, boom, and then it finds there's no foundation, it actually destroys. And I've seen this happen to many people. So here's the thing. I want you to just look at this diagram here. These are the seasons. You've heard of the book called Seasons? These are actually the seasons. Thank you, Freddie. I can see you. And Pastor Angie, it's so good to see you. Success is harder than failure. Preparation is everything. That's so deep, Pastor Angie. Akini, Nyokabi, I see you all. Thank you so much. Here's the thing. Look at that chart. Global influence begins with intentional leadership. If you ever want to be a leader who has global influence, if you want to be a person who actually makes a difference, if you don't want success to come and destroy you, then you have to do the task right for the season that you're in. You have to build the foundation right in your season. So here are some seasons, and I'll just basically touch on them. Take a screenshot of that if you want to, because I've just found that a very useful resource so that you know the different seasons of your life. The first one there is foundation stage. It's 0 to 10. And I'll talk a little, so what I'll do is I'll talk a little about it. I'll just mention it briefly. I think just average age of the people who are watching. I know we had people in their 20s, we have people in their 30s, we have people in our 40s. So I'll try and maybe I'll talk a bit about the 30s a little more. I'll spend a little more time on that and mention the rest. So with the first season, 0 to 10, it's an important season. It's an important season because it's a season to learn values. And I'll just mention that real briefly. It's a season when you need as a child to learn values. Right now in the nation, we're facing a crisis of values. A crisis of values. People have resource, but they have no values. And that is destroying our nation. So that's the lesson to learn in your 10s. In your 11 to 25, that's your student season. The lesson is positive friends. And I'm going to talk a bit about positive friends, explain what that is. In your 25 to 35, that's in your like late 20s to 30s. That's your season for purpose when you're an apprentice. It's your season for purpose. And I'll talk a bit about that as well. Purpose is when you discover the thing that you're created for. And it's a very important thing. Most people think when you're 25 to 35 that the first thing you should be looking for is a job that pays you a lot of money. And the problem is you get a job that pays you a lot of money and then you don't have a purpose. And when I talked about quarter life crisis, that's the crisis a lot of people are facing. And you pursued something so hard. You went at it with all your heart, and then you actually discovered that you got it and it wasn't what you were living for. It was scary because you're in your early 30s and it's like, my goodness, I'm doubting myself. This is what I signed up for. I've got this degree. I remember one of the people who wrote to me said, I've got a degree. I've got a PhD. I've studied so hard. I've pushed my life to be a success in everything I've done. And now I've discovered that now that I'm on top of my game, every single person, all my friends now are married. People have moved on. They have families. And all of a sudden, I'm realizing I can't call anyone. I don't have anybody. And this person actually told me, I feel so lonely at this point. And I'm wondering, is this what life was about? Is this what I really wanted my life to count for? And this person actually, and here's what really scared me. This person said, I'm even thinking about moving to another country and starting all over because this isn't worth it. This is somebody who's worked so hard. She's in mid-30s. And it's like, I've been climbing the ladder of success and I found it's leaning against the wrong wall. So it's so important in those years to make sure that you're getting into your purpose. Now, when you get into purpose, you're able to move into the next stage. And the next stage is focus. Because from 35 to 45, this is a season when you're saying, my goodness, I know what my purpose is. I want to focus. I want to build it. I want to engage, and I put everything in it to build. I'm a builder. I remove all distractions. I remove all those great opportunities around me. And I focus on the one thing that I'm here to contribute. I build my solution. I build my organization. I build my NGO. I build my church. Whatever it is that God has called me to build, I build that thing, my solution. That's what you're building at that time. And when you build your solution well, in your 25 to 35, you're ready to move to your next stage, which is your mentor stage. Now, in your mentor stage, it's a very interesting stage because many people end up not understanding that And then they end up building their whole life. Now, this is critical. By the way, this one is worth the money of this whole podcast, which is free, by the way. But it's worth it because here's the thing you want to understand. When you don't understand your builder season, you will end up becoming a builder for life. What do I mean by that? We lost a really noble person, somebody who started off really well. He was affectionately known as Comrade Bob, Robert Mugabe. He passed on this last week. Robert Mugabe he was infamous by the time he passed on. But this man was actually known as one of Africa's liberating fathers, a freedom fighter par excellence, one of the greatest leaders, greatest fighters for independence this continent actually produced. Somebody who was educated, somebody who was amazingly brilliant. As good as, you could have put him on par with any of our founding fathers for this continent. But this man got stuck in the builder phase. And builder phase is when you feel nobody else can do what I can do. I have to keep being the leader. I have to be the one who's leading this organization, this country. And he died as a builder. And what happens when you die as a builder is you suppress everyone else before you behind you. It's called founder syndrome. And what happens is you start choking to death the very thing that you gave life to. So you want to make sure you don't get stuck in builder season and you're able to move to your mentor season, which is 45 to 55. That's a season I'm in right now. And that's a season when now you raise up your mentors, your mentees, the people that you've been raising up. You multiply yourself. Pastor Angie just said that you multiply yourself, and that's brilliant. Here's the thing you do in your stage, and here's what I did. I'll give you my own example. When I got to that season, when I was about 45 when I did this. I sat down with my wife, Caro, and we actually detailed the 6 critical things that I do for Mavuno Church. The things that nobody else could do. The big things that I'd been carrying as a builder. The things that I thought were the most core things to who this church was supposed to be in the future. And then what I did is I prayed about it, and I asked God to show me which of the people I'd been raising, the young leaders under me that I'd been raising, would take each of those 6. And I actually handed off to each of those 6 one of those areas. I gave them authority to lead the church in that area. You know what ended up happening at that point? By the way, it was so interesting. These young leaders stepped up, and all of a sudden I found myself without a job. In the organization, I found it. I was basically retired before my time. Now, but you know what ended up happening? Here's one of the key reasons why I had to do that. When you fail to step up and be a mentor and move from building, the people you've been raising in your organization, you know what happens to them? They start getting a sense of they need to move somewhere else. They want to move somewhere else. Yeah, Elsie, you become a bottleneck to them. And I'll tell you, for Christians, what Christians say, most of you don't work in church, but when you work in church, Christians have such nice language. Somebody comes and tells you, Pastor, I just sense my season here as I've prayed is coming to an end. I sense that the Lord is calling me to a new season. Basically all that season talk is saying, you've become my lead. That's what he's really saying. I'm not saying God doesn't call people to leave and go somewhere else. But many times people don't leave an organization, they leave a leader. Okay, I hope you got that. Many times people don't leave the organization, they leave you because you're not giving them the space to continue to grow. And so I had to pass on that authority to my leaders so that they could find space to grow. And they've grown, and it's incredible for me to see them grow. And I found that I have a new role now as their mentor. I spend a lot of time with those 6. I coach them, I help them, and they're doing far more than I could ever have achieved by myself. Caro and I have found our productivity has gone up 10 times, 10x, simply by having these guys around. And now we're thinking, what's our role? We're mentoring them. We're mentoring others who are starting churches for Mavuno. We're able to travel to other parts of the world, which is this next season. We're able to even help plant other churches because we're not stuck in builder phase. Now, from builder phase, you move to mentor phase. When you move to mentor phase, your focus is sharing the dream, the solution. The sixth stage is your representation stage, which is your statesman stage. That's when you even move from being the person who is a mentor. Because even then, what's happened to the guys you raised? My guys will be ready to be mentors by that time. So I'll have to move up from that space and let them become the ones who are leading the networks, leading the movement. and I step up to another level. And so what Kara and I plan at that point is to move to a statesman level. And at that point, what you do is you become a resource mobilizer. Why? Because your credibility, if you've been focused on doing your one thing, has become great by this point. And you're able to be a resource not just to your company, but to your industry. You're able to become a person who's a representative. This is why if Comrade Bob, if Robert Mugabe had actually stepped up, he would have become the kind of guy who's the go-to person. He's a guy who is called to come when there's a crisis with the African Union or with the UN. He's the kind of guy who's called to come and represent Africa in a UN forum. You move up, and you don't stifle the guys down there. And so at the statesman level, the idea is you are able to raise resources for your vision. You can do things that nobody else can. One great statesman I can mention right now is my mentor, Pastor Oscar, Bishop Oscar Muriu of Nairobi Chapel. That guy is an incredible statesman. Right now, I'll just tell you one little thing that he's doing. I mean, he's one of the heroes of this country. Very few people know what an incredible leader he is. But right now, I mean, just a few months ago, he was in San Francisco. A group of churches in San Francisco came up to Bishop Oscar and they said, we have been looking for leadership. We've been looking for someone to give us vision. And we've really been praying about it. And we feel like you and Nairobi Chapel are the ones who can give us vision. And so basically they said, we want to hand over our churches to you, that you become our leader. And so he was in San Francisco. He had taken a few leaders from Nairobi Chapel to sort of induct these guys in what it means to be, I guess they can't be called Nairobi Chapel, San Francisco Chapel. I don't know what they're going to call them. But you know, his greatest resource right now at Nairobi Chapel is not by being at Nairobi Chapel. His greatest resource is by being this global leader who speaks at conferences, who brings credibility to the leaders that he has raised under him, who are now doing the building and the mentoring. Okay, I hope you're getting that one. That's the next season. And some of I could tell from the age of the people who are listening in as we were checking in earlier that most of us are not in that phase. But this is where you're heading to. And this is why it's important for you to understand there's a stage ahead. I don't have to get stuck where I am. And then your sixth stage here is your sage stage, your seventh stage, your reflection stage. Reflection stage is an interesting stage. At 65, again, this is when now your greatest input to your organization is not from your muscles or even your thinking, it's from your wisdom. This is when because of the reflected experience you have, you're at a space where leaders can come to you from wherever, and they basically are able to get wisdom from you. Just to make this one not to be so abstract for you, I'll tell you what I'm planning to do at 65, what Kara and I are planning to do at 65. Our vision is to own a little getaway. This is what we'd like. I mean, left to me, it would be like 20 acres. I don't know what she thinks. I'd love it next to a lake somewhere. We'd have a guest house. And we would live there because our kids would be gone by that time. And what we'd do is every week, we want to host pastors and leaders, global leaders from all different countries. They would come and spend a week with us, with their wives. We'd just pour into them, God willing, and be able to share our experience, be able to mentor them, speak into their marriages, be able to share things that nobody else could, and then just release them to go back and serve God wherever it is that God has called them, whatever nation they come from. Because at that point, our wisdom is our greatest resource. And that's what we see ourselves doing. Now, I hope you're getting this, that life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. There's a season, there's a task for every season. And if you do your season well, then you'll be able to succeed in the seasons to come. So I hope that's helpful. At least we've been able to get some of that out of the way. Let me just talk a bit about the fact that not everybody's going to live a fruitful and effective life. There are many people who life happens to them. But what my hope is that through your getting wisdom, through your getting understanding, you will happen to life. Because you'll have different results, because you'll do a different approach. Too many people just are chasing opportunities. It's like, what's the next thing? What's the newest promotion? Where's the new job? Which country am I supposed to go and am I getting a job to live in from my organization? And it's like opportunities driving you as opposed to you being able to figure out where you're going. And I think what I'm hoping that you'll be able to see is that a fruitful life is lived intentionally. Leadership, good leadership is lived intentionally. You need to understand, here's my season now. This is my task for my season. And then here's the next season I'm preparing myself for, so I can't afford to get stuck in this season. Yokabi, that's a great question. What happens if you don't get your past season right? And let me just say this, that is so powerful, because as I talk through seasons, and we're not going to go into all the seasons today, you will inevitably find that there are cracks, there are flaws in your foundation. And some of them are not your fault. Some of them are because I was brought up in a home where my parents were busy, they were not home, they didn't teach me the things they should have taught me at that season. Now, the most important thing is to be able to go backwards and to say, I need to layer my foundation. I need to go back and repair the cracks in my foundation, because they could be the things that are keeping me from moving forward. I thought it was just, let me run faster. But actually, no. It might be that I need to actually go take a few steps back, repair some foundations, because if I do, and I'm intentional about that, I'll be able to go forward and build the way I should. So let me talk a bit about a couple of stages that are important. The first stage I'll talk about is foundation. And again, you can take a screenshot of that. The key focus in foundation years. This is when you're 0 to 10. Again, I said extremely important season of your life. 0 to 10 years. Most people think the most important task here is to find the right school for your kids, make sure they're doing, they have the best experience in school. So there are even schools in our country where people book their kids in when they're still in the womb. You get on the waiting list because we think that the right school means that the child will succeed. But if you look at that, there's a key scripture there, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 1 to 6. I've asked you to take a screenshot because I'd love you to just read that on your own time. And it really talks about the key emphasis is how you bring up your child is the way they end up being. How you bring up your child is the way they end up being. Train up a child in the way they should go. They will not depart from it. Many parents focus on academics. Wrong focus. I'm not saying academics are bad. But you know what? The key things that you're going to find will hinder your success if you don't learn. One is obedience. These are values. By the way, how did I come up with these values? I did a huge survey. I talked to a lot of people who are involved with parenting. I talked to people who are employers. And just to see what are the values, where the value gaps in a sense. I went into scripture as well. And it was interesting for me to find that this list very much connected with the list that Caro and I had actually come up with. Caro is a psychologist as well, so she's been a great resource for me as I've prepared this. And so three here: obedience, gratification, responsibility. I won't have time to get into what these are, but let me just say this, that you're going to find a lot of young people getting into the marketplace today, and they have no ability to follow commands or orders. They don't know how. I mean, it's like the boss says, do this, and it's like, I don't feel like it. And for them, it's a real conflict. I actually don't feel like it. And nobody ever taught them. You see, the thing is, the parent never took the time to teach you that you obey has nothing to do with it, with how you feel. You do it because I asked you to. I don't even have to explain myself. I'm your dad. You do it. And because they never learned that, they were very mollycoddle as youngsters. They didn't learn that there were consequences. What ended up happening is when the boss says something, it's like, I'm in conflict. I don't feel what this person's telling me. I need to quit this job. And it's almost like I can't follow. Here's another thing you need to understand. Here's another leadership nugget. The best leaders are the best followers. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. The best leaders tend to be the best followers. And the reason is because when you follow well, if you're able to follow well, then it also means you understand what it takes for your leaders to follow you well. When I find somebody who can't follow, who struggles to follow others, inevitably I find someone who makes a terrible leader. So if you don't teach your children to follow, at that point, to follow instruction, then they're going to struggle later. And I'll tell you something. There are many times when people are not promoted upwards in the organization because they got better qualifications. They're promoted because the boss feels, I trust this person. When I share my vision, they're going to execute it. There's some people, when the vision is shared, they're thinking 5 different ways. I could do this thing much better than you anyway. That's not a person who's ever going to get promoted. So that's you're stifling your children's ability to lead by stifling their ability to follow. You teach them to follow. Another thing is delayed gratification, another value. You know, many parents don't teach their child that you don't always get what you want when you want it. Incredibly important. I mean, I remember my mom would teach us when we were kids, you eat your food and then you eat your dessert. If there's something sweet, you eat it later. In fact, my mom was so ninja. It would be like, eat your vegetables first, then you eat meat. Then if there's a sweet afterwards, then that's what you eat. And she was harsh. Let me tell you know how she'd do it? It would be like if you didn't eat your porridge in the morning, and then she'd let you go to school. But you come in the evening, and that's the evening when I'm telling you the thing you love eating would be made. Huh? And when you sit at the table, everybody's hungry, you're smelling that food. She'd come out from the fridge with your porridge from the morning and say, okay, there's one of us who didn't finish their breakfast. So here's your breakfast. Please finish it. When you do finish it, then you can join the rest of us. I mean, those sound like really antiquated ways to bring up your child. But you know what it taught us? It taught us that you do the hard work first. Then you enjoy. And that, as a family, I think all my siblings, that's something that we are hardworking. It was something that was taught to us. You need to teach your child that. Because many kids nowadays, it's like, I want to succeed and I want it now. You get somebody who's just graduated from university and they come and their first job and they're saying, man, why aren't you paying me 150K? It's like how am I supposed to live without 100K in my, and it's like they have no idea that you can't live the same lifestyle as your parents now because nobody taught them that. And it actually has become a hindrance for many young people today in the marketplace. And I can tell you, because I have many of them, that they struggle to make it with a little, this is an employer's marketplace. There are many young people to be employed. You're competing with many. So you come in with those extreme demands and you just find it's very hard for you. Or when they get their business, because they say, I can't even be employed anyway, so let me start my business. But any little money that comes in, it's for lifestyle because they have no idea how to delay gratification. A third one is responsibility. Pick up after yourself. Wash your dishes. Wash your clothes. Teaching your child those things. Again, you find a lot of adults today have no sense of responsibility. You walk into the workplace, things aren't working. Whose job it is? Is it? I wasn't paid to do that. I do what I'm paid to do. And there's a sense where people have no sense of responsibility. So again, it's almost being able to say, these are cracks in foundations. These are things that were not taught well by parents, and they come back to eat children. There's a little story about foundations that I was told about a young man who went into a business. He was going for an interview. His dad had been kind of tough on him, had really taught him to wash clothes from when he was young, pick up after himself. He really used to feel bothered by this. But anyway, one day he goes into this interview after university, walks into the door. The door is wide open. He's thinking, what's wrong with these people? I mean, somebody could walk in. So he closes the door behind him. And then right there in the reception, there's nobody, but there's a whole basket that's been knocked over and there's trash on the floor. The guy is like, what kind of company is this? So he comes and pushes those papers back into the waste paper basket. He leaves it on the ground, standing properly. Then he walks into the next room and all the lights are on and the fans are going and there's nobody there. And the dude is like, my goodness, they're wasting all the electricity. And because he was taught well, he went off turning off all the lights, turning off all the fans. And then he walked into the third room and then he was surprised. It was full. It was the interview room. So the guy is like, oh, okay. I didn't even know there were people here. And then the interview door opens. And the guy inside calls him. The last guy who's walked in, he calls him and he passes everybody else and he's hearing people mumbling like, is this corruption? And when he gets to the door, the guy announces, by the way, we've hired. This is the guy we're hiring. And everybody's murmuring, why? What did he do? I mean, he's even come late. And the guy says, you know what? We had CCTV cameras all along from the door until here. And we watched every one of you pass that door. We watched every one of you pass the trash. We watched every one of you pass those lights. This is the only person who was responsible. You know what? We're hiring for a manager. And this is the only person who's shown that they can manage something. So here's the thing I'm saying. Pick up those lessons. If you have cracks in your foundations, you need to go back and say, my goodness, I wasn't taught to be patient. I wasn't taught to delay my gratification. That's why I'm in debt right now. I wasn't taught to follow commands. I wasn't taught to actually honor my leader. And that's why I'm a dishonorable person right now. And be able to say, I need to fix my foundation before I need to move to the next stage. All right. I said I wouldn't talk too long for that. So allow me to rush through that one. I'll say season 2 is education. Key focus, again, many people think it's grades, but it's actually not. It's positive friendships. Why? Because this is a season when you're moving away from your parents' influence and you're really being influenced by your peers. And at this point, you want to make sure, please take a screenshot of that one as well. You want to make sure at this stage that you're teaching your teens, your young adults, how to make positive friends. And again, this sounds counterintuitive because many parents, you're thinking, how do I get my child into the best university? How do I get them to make sure that they get the best grades because they can get the best job? But again, I'll tell you just from benefit of wisdom and hindsight. As I've interviewed parents whose children have gone through the best universities, many of them will tell you, actually, we regret even paying the fees we paid because it's not the university that made the child. We look at our friends who paid a lot less and got the same result. You know what actually makes people employable or even employable, successful in life? One of those key lessons about working well with people and letting people work well with you, helping people work well with you. It's called emotional intelligence. It's a huge thing. It's taught in corporate seminars all over the world. But actually, emotional intelligence is usually picked up in your teens and your early young adults. And one of the things you can do as a parent for your kids in this season is to actually teach them how to make friends. Teach them how to become good at making friends, making positive friendships. We talked about it's not just all kinds of friends that are useful friends. You want authentic friends, people who are real with them. You want value-adding friends, people who are actually not just taking time away from them, stealing their life away from them, but people who are actually moving in the same direction. You want committed friendships, not people who are there for the good times. And again, I'll just say this, that even when I'm promoting somebody where I work, often it's not because they show me a good CV. I'll tell you something, a CV would never get you a promotion around me. The thing that, and most employers will tell you the same thing, the thing that will get you a promotion is your ability to work well with others. And it's the same with your business. You could have a fantastic product. You could have a killer idea. You've created this killer app. You've created this thing that could make a whole ton of money, but you're horrible at working with other people. And again, that thing, you could even succeed financially through it, but you end up becoming a horrible human being and you end up leaving a mess behind you. And you get to that place where you get to the top of the ladder and you find out it was leaning against the wrong wall. So teaching people positive friendships, very critical. Again, I'm not going to take too long with that one because we said we're going to spend a little more time on season 3, which is preparation. Preparation. Now, this is by the time you're getting to this age, you're in the season of, let's say 35, 25 to 35. Season of 25 to 35. Most people focus on how can I get a good job that pays me well? How can I start a business that I can make the most amount of money in? There's somebody who asked this question at the beginning because I made this statement on Facebook this week and I said, rushing to start your own business is not always the wisest thing. And they asked, why is that? Why did I say that? I'll tell you why. Because in this season, in your 25 to 35, this is a season of apprenticeship. This is a season when you want to walk with others. You want to learn from others. Because the most important thing you can do in this season is not make money, but is to discover purpose. Purpose is the driver. It's a thing that you are created for. I see Moses Mukisa. I see him watching today. He's one of the guys I really admire. He's an incredible leader out in Uganda. And one of the things he said last week, because I was with him last week, is he said many people, by the time you get to your 40s, or by the time you get to 40, you should have an idea what your purpose is. You should have an idea where you're heading to in life. It's not something that you just wake up and decide. It's something that is, there's a process you go through to begin to understand that. So Richard, you said you missed a screenshot, so I'm going to just turn it around for you so you can see it. If you missed a screenshot for season 3, there it is. So here's a season when there are many pressures on you because what's happening is you're figuring out who you are, self-determination, you're launching out in your career, you're maybe getting into relationships that could end up heading into marriage, there's pressure of image, people around you succeeding and looking successful, so there's that pressure for marriage, especially for the ladies in that season, career confusion, what am I supposed to be doing? So there's a lot of pressure there. But don't get confused because what you should be doing is finding your purpose. Now, I put a key scripture there. You can read it by yourself. Isaiah, I see that you've just begun your production season. We're coming to it. Now, let me talk a bit about why purpose is so critical. Here's 4 things that you want to know about purpose. Purpose motivates, purpose directs, purpose brings satisfaction, purpose gives meaning. Now, those 4 things are so critical. If you have purpose, it means when you hit the inevitable things that will come against you in life, because life is never going to be an easy takeoff or ramp. There are always going to be challenges that will come your way. But purpose is the thing that keeps you going, even when you know that, my goodness, this is the hardest season I've ever found myself in. I find when people quit, it's like, I want to quit on life. Part of the reason is because you have no purpose. There's no bigger thing you're living for. There's a great scripture about Jesus in the book of Hebrews, which says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross and he scorned its shame. I mean, this man was heading towards execution. He was going to lose his whole life. He was going to be tortured. But because he had a purpose, he actually endured it. He was like, he scorned it. It's like, this is nothing compared to what I'm living for. When you have purpose, you're able to endure the challenging things in life, and it keeps you motivated. Purpose directs you also. That's the second thing. Purpose is the thing that keeps you from running after opportunity. Too many people are like, it's like opportunity becomes the tail that wags the dog. Your boss tells you, I want to pay you to move into this new job. And it's like, done. If it's more money, I'm in. The first question you should ask is that taking me towards my purpose? I have people come and tell me, my goodness, Pastor, pray for me. I'm so grateful. God has answered my prayer. I've got a promotion. I'm going to Hong Kong and I'm going to live there and work there. And I say, okay, is your family coming with you? And they say, no, it's only for me. I'm going to have to leave my family here. But I thank God for the opportunity. And I'm thinking, dude, is your purpose to have a broken marriage? I mean, is that part of your purpose? Is your purpose to be 60 and rich and alone? Because if that's not your purpose, you need to be questioning that opportunity. Too many people follow opportunity as opposed to following purpose. Purpose is the thing that directs you and shows you where you should be going. So that's one of the tasks you need to be finding out in this season. Another thing about purpose, it brings satisfaction. Purpose is that thing that helps you feel like your life is moving towards something. There's a sense when you're working towards purpose. Money satisfies, and I'll agree that money, when you've got money, there's nothing wrong with having money, and there's nothing wrong with having a job that gives you money. But you know something? If you're running after money, you'll never have enough of it. If you're running after toys, you'll never have enough of them. And you have a car and you'll need 5 cars. You'll have a house, you'll need 5. Because those things will never satisfy. But when you're living for purpose, you're able to say, I've got enough. Because here's what my purpose is. My purpose is to create something bigger. And purpose will even make you be able to even say, I don't even need all this other stuff. I can focus everything else and push it there. There's a guy called John Wesley, who was one of the richest men in England. In his time. He was a published author, made a ton of cash. But this guy's purpose was to actually create meaningful life for people. He preached the gospel to people. And because of that, he basically lived on the same lifestyle he lived when he was 30, until he was an old man. He all the money that came, he just gave it away to orphanages, he gave it away to needs, because he didn't need it. He was living for something bigger. Purpose is the thing that tells you, I've got enough. I can put everything else where it needs to go. So what's your purpose? What are you living for? Because I can tell you, if you're living for money, this is why you find guys in our country stealing so much money. And then what do they do next? They steal more. Why? Because it didn't satisfy them. They are living, it's like a hole. It's a vacuum they're trying to fill with the wrong thing. The other thing about purpose is that it gives meaning. There's nothing better than to get to the end of your life and to be able to say, I've finished my race. I've fought my fight. Now I'm ready for the reward that's ahead for me. And those are the words of Paul of Tarsus, who went through a life where he lived intentionally, lived the purpose he was created for. And as a result, he was able to get to the end of his life and say, it is finished. Just like Jesus. Jesus got to the end of his life, he said, it is finished. Too many people get to the end of their life and they say, I am finished. It's like you're running after the wrong things and you get to the end of your life and you're dead. And it's like, it's over, and was this worth it? And purpose gives you a sense of meaning. So let's move on then and talk about the ways to know your purpose. This is, and I'll end with this because I think this is a key thing, and then maybe we can have a few minutes for questions. How do you discover your purpose? I'm going to give you just 4 quick things, and like I say, it's not this is not a quick fix. This is not self-help. Each of these is extremely difficult to do, but they're worth it. They're worth it. They're worth leaning in. They're worth giving everything. They're worth stopping everything to do. Because when you do these things and you do them well, then you live a life that has direction and meaning. So the 4 things, I'll turn my camera again just so that you can see them. The 4 things, number 1 is to know God. You will never know your purpose unless you know your purpose giver. You know, there's a reason why you are created. The Bible says even before you are formed, Ephesians chapter 2 verse 10, while you're still in your mother's womb, God had a purpose that he had created for you to accomplish. And so you need to know your purpose giver. You need to know the one who created you. You need to know God. And sometimes people think that knowing God is really about a religious exercise. I go to church, I give my money, I read the Bible. It's just this spiritual thing. But I've come to realize that knowing God is mission critical. Knowing your maker is mission critical, because if you want to live a life of purpose, you have to know why he made you. You have to engage into this relationship with the person who made you. So when I tell people read your Bible, when I read the Bible, when I read the scriptures, I'm not reading them so I can learn some historic truth. I'm reading them so I can understand God's intention, God's purpose, God's heart, God's mind, and apply that in my life today, in my business today. I found the scriptures to be so alive that many times I find solutions to things. I mean, just even this last week, there are certain business things that I've been thinking about that just because of understanding what God is thinking about them, it's like, boom, they fall into place. When I read the scripture, I'm able to, when I spend time in God's presence, I'm able to bring that presence into my work. I'm able to pray over the things I'm doing. And many times I find that God is able to give me divine solutions. And some of you, somebody's asking, I've fallen behind. What am I supposed to do if all my foundations are cracked? God is able to actually even help you repair and help you accelerate. Because you know something, I've come to understand that what you need to make a lot of money, here's a little secret. What you need to make a lot of money is not huge hassle. It's not connections. It's not who you know. It's a divine idea. And there's something called the power of a divine idea. When God gives you an idea that is like, boom. And when I have time, another time, I'll tell you about some divine ideas God has dropped on me, on my wife and I, on Cara and I, that have taken us so much farther than our peers. And it wasn't because we worked so hard or we're so much brighter. You understand what I'm saying? So knowing God is critical. It's mission critical if you want to know your purpose. The second thing you want to do, apart from knowing God, is to know yourself. Again, a screenshot worth taking. Huh? Wahoo, I can see you. It's great to see you. Christine, I can see you. Peter. Know yourself. What is knowing yourself? Many people don't know themselves. You don't understand who you are. Here are some circles that help you begin to understand something about yourself. What are the things you love? Those things you're passionate about. It's like, dude, I can do this anytime. I can do it without anyone paying me. I love cycling. I love singing. I love reading. I love whatever it is. I just enjoy it. What are you passionate about? I tell people there's something about passion that's really profound, because passion drives and it keeps you motivated. When you understand your passion, and there's a great writer called Sandy Adelaja who said, you find your passion where your pain and where your joy and your pain intersect. So passion is not just about the things you like and you're joyful about. It's also the things you feel pain in. Some of you watch TV and you see women abused on TV and you feel like pulling your hair out. You want to jump into that TV and just box that man who did it. You need to understand, not everybody's like that. You'll be shocked. In a room of 100 people, you'll find maybe there are 5 of you who actually are intensely disturbed when that happens. It's not because the rest are inhuman or don't care. It's because you are created to be passionate about that. Some of you, it's children. Let me turn that for who. Some of you, it's children. You see children abused and you feel so broken. Some of you, it's the environment. You see somebody throwing some trash out of a car and you want to just overtake and just hoot at that guy and tell him, go back and pick that trash. Some of you, it's different things. We are all driven by different things. What's the thing you love? What's the thing you're great at? Which is the next circle. The thing that you're really, really good at. And again, we have different strengths and some of us don't know what our strengths are. The problem with our school system, it teaches us that it teaches us to value one strength, which is that logical, literate ability to read and recite what you read. That's what we test in our school system. It's a horrible system because there's at least 7, 9, 10 intelligences, and we test for 1 or 2, and we make it about that. There's some of you are fantastic at maths. You're able to, there's somebody watching this video, I bet you, somebody's watching tonight, who, if I told you what's 28 times 53, you know the answer. Right now, you know the answer. And I can tell you, by the way, my wife knows the answer to that question. Right now, she's already got a good idea. She's probably pretty close. Why? Because that's a strength she had. And let me tell you something funny about my wife. This is about Carol. She didn't do well in maths. Sorry, Carol's in the room. She actually did not do well in maths. And that's because our school system killed her genius. She actually, when you're talking about stuff to do with business and you give her numbers, she's so good at them. But the school system just did not see that and didn't encourage that. Some of you are fantastic at that. Some of you are fantastic at listening to people. You listen to people and people come away thinking, my goodness, she's so deep. The things she says are so wise. You didn't even say anything. You just listened. And it's your gift. Some of you are good at talking. I mean, you can talk you can talk the hair off a Rastafarian. I mean, you're so gifted, and some of you, that's your strength. I suspect when you look at some people like Churchill, who is such a great comedian, he probably was phenomenal at talking. He probably got noisemaker every day in class. That's actually a strength, and he's making tons of money from it. Some of you are fantastic at sports. You're so gifted at almost any sport you throw yourself into because you've got that athletic ability. What are your strengths? You want to understand what you're good at because that's a part of understanding then what your passion, what your vision is, what your purpose is. The third thing, I moved a bit too early. What the world needs. The third circle. I'll say this about what the world needs, which is this one here. This is the place of opportunity. This is the place of opportunity. The place you add value. What does the world need? Too many of us are looking for a job when we're supposed to be looking for work. You understand what I'm saying? There's a need around you. There's a problem. And the best businesses are solutions to people's problems. So rather than looking for money, look for places where people are hurting. Look for places where people have problems and begin to find out solutions to those people's problems. And it's interesting when you begin to connect that with your strength and with your passions, and then you find solutions, my goodness, boom, you start to find purpose. You start to find something that drives you. You start to find something that you want to live for. And of course, then the fourth one, which is you're paid for it. Let me just go back to it. You're paid for it. Which is now you start to find the thing you're able to find a way to monetize it. Again, my good friend Moses Mukisa has a great class called SFFG, which is straightforward financial growth. He talks about the place to find income streams. I do a class as well with my wife Cara. It's called Couples and Money. We talk to couples and we teach them about how to multiply your income streams, how to get paid for the things you're passionate and good at and the world needs. And so that's a connection. That little red dot over there, it's called the sweet spot. It's called your purpose. And your purpose is going to be at the space where those things begin to connect. Now, like I said, this is not a quick thing. It's not something you say, okay, next week I'm going to find my purpose. It's a journey. And that's why the 25 to 35 years are so good. I say to people, when you get a job too early that pays you too well, those guys who get paid really well in their 25s, or you create that killer app and you become a millionaire at 25, it's a dangerous thing for you because it can easily mask the fact that you don't know what your purpose is. And you end up starting to live for money. You end up starting to live for success and fame and popularity as opposed to living for the thing that you are created for. So that's the second thing. Know yourself. The third thing is to locate your mentors. In your 25 to 35 years, you want to locate your mentors. Who are your mentors? It's those people that will help you go farther and faster. If you want to see far, don't just jump up and down. Stand on the shoulders of giants. This is words that were attributed to Albert Einstein. And I really completely connect with that. Actually, I think it was Isaac Newton. Okay, one of those geniuses. I really connect with those words. I was fortunate in that season of my life, in my 20s, to connect with Pastor Oscar Murillo. And that man helped me to cut through a lot of stuff that would have come in my way. I was able to enter into spaces that a young man my age had no business being into. I was able to enter into meetings that I should not have been in. Now, having a mentor, finding people to help you accelerate at this point, it means rather than jumping in to start my own hustle, let me go and help somebody else with their hustle. Because as they start to mentor me, as I start to get people feeding into me, I start to learn to think. I'm able to accelerate. When I started Mavuno Church, I was 35. And many people were shocked at how fast it grew. Many people thought, my goodness, this guy, what is he doing? Is this a cult? But you know what I said? I said, I'm not as bright as many people who could have started Mavuno. What I had was 13 years of intense mentoring by a man who was 10, 15 years older than myself. And this man poured into me for those years. And as a result, I was seeing much farther than many people around me. If you want to see far, stand on the shoulders of giants. What giants are you standing on right now? What shoulders are you standing on right now? Because giants have opened them up for you. Now, let me say one little quick tip about finding shoulders to stand on. The worst question you can ever ask is, will you be my mentor? Why? Because by the time you found somebody that you think can be a really great mentor, trust me, they've got a whole bunch of other people who would love for them to mentor. They're busy. And it's always, every stage you move on in your life, every season, it's always 10 times more busy, 10 times more intense, let me put it that way, 10 times more responsibility. That's one of the principles I found about leadership. So by the time I'm asking somebody who's 20 years older than myself to mentor me, will you be my mentor? What I'm really doing is presuming that they will abandon all those responsibilities they have around themselves and come and just look at me and tell me I want to pour into you. It's not going to happen. Unless maybe they married your sister or there's something you have on them. So how do you get people to mentor you? Really simple. This is another quick tip that I'll give you that has really helped me in life. What you can do is find a way to serve them. If you can find a way to serve someone, it's so amazing how quickly you find yourself being mentored by that person. This is a little tip I discovered, and I'm telling you, there's some people who are naturally gifted at this. They're incredible. They come to Mavuno Church, they start working as an intern, and very quickly they discover how to get into my house. I mean, I can think of one guy who just asked me, I'd love to teach your kids how to play music. I'd love to teach your kids how to play guitar. And the next thing, that guy was having dinner with my family. I mean, there were people who had worked in that church for years, and I mean, it was like, I'm going to make time for you. But for this one, it was like he's in my house every day. Why? Because he found a way to serve. And let me tell you, if someone has kids and you find a way to serve someone's kids, you get straight into their heart. Okay, this is just a little something there. And some of you know what I'm talking about because you do it really well. And I've found, by the way, I find when I find somebody I want to learn from, Moses is watching. Moses is actually younger than me, Moses Mkisa, but he's actually somebody that I consider one of my mentors in certain areas. And one of the things I did was when I discovered that guy and I said, I want this guy to be my friend, I said, I'm going to find ways to serve him until he wants to be my friend as well. And it's not manipulation. It's saying he's a busy man. When somebody's busy, I'm not going to just enter into their life and walk in and hope that they'll make time for me. Are you understanding? This will keep serving you, not just now as a young person, but years to come. That little lesson I've just given you will pay dividends in years to come. The fourth and the last one is, apart from, so we've said know God, know yourself, locate your mentors, become an apprentice. If you become an apprentice in this season, I want to put it to you, and that's what I did in my 25 to 35. I actually served Pastor Oscar's vision for 13 years. I walked behind him. I served in his space. I found ways to serve him. I worked for him. I put aside my vision and served his vision. Now, that sounds crazy until you realize that what ended up happening is that his vision became an accelerator for my vision. And so right now where I am, I always say I would not be had I not put those years serving that incredible guy. And I want to just challenge young people. This whole story about, you know what, unless I get a managerial job, I'm not serving here. Find your mentor. Become an apprentice. And that's the best thing you could ever do for yourself in this season. So I'm going to move, again, just because of time, I want to be able to give time for questions. I will say, and this is the thing I want to say before I conclude, it's never too late. It's never too late. Why am I saying that? There's some of you who are listening to this and are thinking, my goodness, there's so many things I missed. There's so many gaps I missed. How do I go back and recover? And I want to say God is a God of a second chance. He's such an amazing God. He does not treat us like our past deserves, our sins deserve. Even if the mess you're in right now is because of your mistakes. Even if it was you that caused it, you made mistakes, you did things that were wrong. God is such an amazing God. In fact, what he doesn't not only just not punt. I found God is so incredible. He's so gracious because what he does is he actually takes that mess and turns it into your message. And he takes your pain and turns it into a platform. And those things that you considered just a mess in your life, God can actually has the ability to actually give you beauty for ashes. That's a God that I serve. And so I want to just encourage you and tell you it's never too late. It's never too late. I've seen people, Winston Churchill was in his 60s. He was 65 when he became the Prime Minister of England. Abraham Lincoln was 70 when he became President of the US. And they gave their best contribution at that season, despite having a very enormous, very unknown career before that. And so I'm just saying it's never too late. If you're watching this, you can make it, you will make it. What you have to do now is just choose to become intentional in your leadership journey. And that's why I'm going to end by saying, the lessons I'm teaching, of course, here are the stages again for those who came in a bit late and weren't able to see them. The 7 stages, if you're able to take a screenshot there. Yes, Isaiah, it's never too late. By the way, for real, it's never too late. So if you're there, I hope this has encouraged somebody. It's never too late. You felt like you wasted some years, you felt like you've been wandering in the wilderness, it's never too late. And so I want to just conclude by saying those lessons are in the book Seasons. You can actually find, we've kind of rushed through them today, and just because of time, but we go through every one of those seasons. And you want to read the season you're in and to understand it well. You want to read the seasons before you to understand where the cracks are so you can go and heal them, but also so you can know how to mentor people behind you also. And then you want to know the seasons ahead of you so that you can prepare for them. Because here's the thing I discovered. When I discovered that there were greater things than being a CEO, when I discovered there were greater things than just being the boss, and I discovered I can actually raise up other people to be CEOs so I can lead up as a mentor, I realized, oh my goodness, I mean, I never want to be the lid for what God is doing at Mavuno or in other things that he's led me into. I always want to be an enabler, because my other people shining will never make me shine less. In fact, when they shine brighter, they actually give me credit. I've been to places where people have seen me and said, my goodness, Pastor Oscar discipled you. That he must be an incredible guy. And I'm like, yeah, when I shine, he actually looks better. You know what I mean? When the people that are behind you look good, you don't oppress them. When they look good, you actually end up looking really good. And when you know there's a journey ahead of you, then you don't stifle, but you actually release and you step forward. So that's what I wanted to share tonight. And I don't know if you have any questions. We're going to take a bit of questions, comments. I can see Irungu saying you need to get the book. Please get it. You can actually go online, www.mureithewanjao.com. Mureithi is a double I, spelled with double I. And then you can actually order it. We'll deliver it to you. One of the reasons I decided not to go to a bookstore is because I thought, man, we live in a digital world. Who has time to go look for a book in a bookshop? And so I actually put it online, and you can order it, and we'll deliver it directly to you. You just tell us where you want it dropped off for a pretty nominal fee. And you can also get it on Kindle. For those of you who are able to get books on Amazon, please, you can get that. Yeah, Christine Nyawera, you're talking about your book club. Absolutely. By the way, this is a fantastic book to read with a team, read with a group, read with a book club, because you're able to discuss and push. It's not just ideas you're getting, but you're able to keep each other accountable as well. I see Gerard saying, my key takeaway is on purpose, how to approach your desired mentor. Please find that mentor and serve them. Gerard, I know that you're going to go places. Kepchumba, thank you for speaking life. Thank you for giving me perspective. Wahoo, how much is it? The book is 1,000 shillings, so it's pretty cheap. You'll be able to get it. Kijo, I'm coming to serve as a head event planner at Isaac House. Thank you. That's a guest house I run. Karibu sana, Kijo. Anthony, thank you for the insights. Non to Zelo, that's a great name. It sounds South African. Thanks, Pastor M. This has been incredible. I really hope so. And I hope that you found something useful that you can apply even now in your leadership journey. That this is not just something that you've gotten a seminar from or you've gotten some ideas. My prayer is that every one of us can actually take one takeout from the things we've been talking about. I don't know what time it is. My assistant's here. One of you tell me what time it is. 8:40. 8:40. So I need to conclude, but I just wondered if there's any question or any other comment before we close out. I can see there's a bunch of people watching, and there might be somebody there who's thinking there's a question you have, something you'd just like to contribute. Gax says, I was late, but I'll follow. Fantastic. I hope you'll be able to get a recording of this. It's great to have you here, Gax, Miringo, and glad that you could join us. Akinyi says, I'm feeling full. Can't wait to get the book. Thank you so much. Kim, great message. I learned a lot. Kijo, when is a reading party? We need to start a book club, that's for sure. Miranda, how do you correct wasted seasons in the wrong career? Great question. And by the way, we talk about that in the book as well. It's a really, really good question. And I just want to say, somebody else says, did you feel like God had forgotten you for 13 years before you began Mavuno? Actually, no, because God had shown me these lessons when I was in my 20s. So I knew I was in a season of preparation and I was enjoying my season. The key thing about knowing your season is that you enjoy it. You don't endure it because you know what that season is about. Sam Murindwa says Kigali needs a book. By the way, Sam, I'll bring the books to your wedding. You're getting married, so that's going to give me an opportunity. So around your wedding, I'll bring a whole bunch of books to Kigali, and hopefully I'll bring you a copy for you as well as a wedding gift. Esther says, thank you for sharing your life. We've gleaned a lot. Jacqueline says, thank you, Pastor. I'm useful. I'm ordering the book. Karibu sana, Jackie. I hope it's helpful. And by the way, leave me comments as you read the book. You can leave comments on the website, or you can actually talk to me on Facebook. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for keeping Purpose Fire in your generation. Elsie, thank you so much, Elsie. You're a partner with me on this journey. David Odongo, thank you. Looking forward to reading the book. I love that. Judy Chalo, can this be a weekly or fortnightly session? Wow. That's a great. Let me give it some thought, by the way. That's a thought. I'm actually enjoying it. Vero, this is deep stuff. I know, Vero, you got a book already. I can't wait to hear your comments. Frezia, please share the recording. How do we order the book? The book is on the website, www.moraviwanjao.com. Moravi has two eyes. So just get on there. You'll be able to order. We'll deliver it. Caroline Karaoke. Will I be doing another live session soon? 8:35 and above. So Carol wants to hear what happens beyond that. It's a good question. And you know what? Get the book because we actually go into detail with each of these. And maybe, we can organize in the next one and we focus a little more on the older group and where they're going. Joyce says, I'm getting myself a copy. Tony, do this every evening. Wahoo, good question, Judy. First time listening to you, Peter says. Can't wait to get the book. Kenya Karemi. Kenya, great to see you, Kenya. Missed you. It's been a while. And I'm glad to see that you're able to join us as well. So, guys, this has been a great evening, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed myself very much. I'm doing this in a really beautiful place. It's called Fair Acres Guest House. I'm going to try and, my team, if you don't want to be seen, you hide or be seen, or you, okay, so my camera crew is running away because they don't want to be seen. So I'm going to just circulate the camera a little bit. This is just one of their rooms, one of their executive rooms, and it's a beautiful, beautiful room. I mean, this place is stunning. It's called Fair Acres Place. It's out in Karen, and I've loved just being here. They're my neighbors. I asked them if they could allow me to use this space. We come here for team building meetings, for conference. They have a beautiful conference hall as well, and they allow us to use it as Bavuno as well. They've got a nice restaurant. It's out on just near Hillcrest School. If you Google it, Fair Acres Place. And thanks, Nora, who's allowed us to use it. Gashanja, great to see you. Kianduma, getting the book. Thank you. Victor Gitonga. Victor, great to see you. And congratulations on your wedding recently. Akinyi, beautiful. It's great to see you as well. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you all making time for this. Let me just pray for us as we conclude. Is that okay? I just want to say a prayer for you. Father, I pray for everyone who's listened to this broadcast tonight. I ask that, Lord, you would allow them to benefit from what we've talked about. I pray that no lesson will be wasted. I pray that everybody here would get a nugget, something they can go home with, something that will change their life. I pray that nobody who has watched tonight would live a life without purpose, without meaning, without direction. That everyone here would determine to get on that purpose journey. And as a result, would have a whole bunch of people from different countries who are watching, who would live intentional lives, who make a difference to their generation. And so, Father, I bless you and I speak a blessing over all our viewers today. For I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And let's keep in touch. Leave me a comment under this, right over here on this Facebook post. Just leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you have any other questions, other things you'd like us to talk about, let me know that. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.